Vorrei aggiungere una cosa che riguarda Mihai Mare Junior. Lui è un figlio d'arte, suo papà è uno dei più grandi attori romeni. Volevo chiedere a Ford Coppola com'è stato lavorare in Romania, come ha avuto pure la fortuna di lavorare con i più grandi attori romeni di cinema e teatro nello stesso tempo. Se è cambiato qualcosa facendo questo film per la sua vita, per il suo io.
Romania is a country with a great intellectual and artistic heritage, poetry, music, theater. There were 50 parts in the film, aside from the 3, and they were all played, every role in the film, including the portrayal of the great Giuseppe Tucci, an Italian Orientalist, were played all by Romanians, Marcel Uris. And I went to much theater, there's much theater. Of course, Romania, as a new member of the EU, is in a moment of great blossoming after 70 years of what can only be described as darkness. It's an exciting country, wonderful young people who are in love with the cinema and have distinguished themselves. The winners of the Cannes Film Festival this year, but even several years ago. This is an exciting country, as I say, one with a great heritage, and I was very pleased to work with Romanian talent. The film was, you would say, the great majority of everyone we worked with, crew, cast, were Romanian. They're wonderful people. You know, they make good wine. In fact, I said to them, I said, gee, I said, did you teach the Romans how to make wine, or did the Romans teach you? He said, no, we taught the Romans how to make wine. But like Iliade, he's a bookish man. Iliade was shy, kind of a cavalier with a nice sense of humor, who was on a quest for knowledge. He spoke many languages, and he is the father of what we call comparative literature, comparative religion. And I would imagine, in reading his memoirs and his autobiography, knowing people who knew him, he was very gentle. He was a professor, and I think when I met Tim for the first time, I had seen him do beautiful performances, but usually they were villains. And I asked him, I said, well, you know, why did you play so many? How can you do that so well? And he says, well, I'm not really big, so I had to be really scary to keep away all those people who would bother me. But when I talked further to Tim, I saw what a cultivated and really extremely intelligent person Tim is, and charming, and just in that first 20 minutes, I felt, oh gee, you know, he could play this lovable, shy professor. And I made the decision to cast him on that impression, because I had seen him really be powerful in films and frightening, but I had never seen the civil light. Also, Tim was a help on the film because he knows everything about filmmaking, and he has directed film. And you know, when an actor knows everything about filmmaking, it can be a real pain in the neck because he knows everything you're doing. But in Tim's case, he was always helping me and saying, look, there's a shot over there. You could get that shot. And he's a wonderful photographer as well. So it was a very helpful choice. As for the second part of the question, it's very difficult to speak in a few words. But originally, I came to the project reading some thoughts about time and consciousness that were written by Iliade. And you know, time, we know that time is very well handled by film. You can do anything with time in a film, but consciousness was the more intriguing subject for me, because it's often a filmmaker is limited, and we say, well, how can we show the audience what he is thinking? And there are just a few ways, but they're sort of primitive, like, you know, having the voice spoken. And I was very interested in that, and then I was excited to learn for myself that time is really only a concept because of our consciousness, and that time is consciousness, and it was my desire to learn more about human consciousness that I made the film. And I've said before that making a film for me is like asking a question, and when it's all over and you finish the film, that's the answer. And for me the answer was, the key to consciousness was language, and that even when I thought in my own regard, when I was little they called me Francie, and I thought, when did Francie first exist? And it was when I was about 4 years old, and that was when I had a little bit of language. So that was what I learned from this film.
To compliment on your film, it was very beautiful, and since it was so elaborate and complicated of a film, would you elaborate on some of the themes, particularly war and love? And also, could you spare a word for your next project?
Well, I don't know how to elaborate. I like to think that this film, Youth Without Youth, Un'altra Giovinezza, is really a fable, a story like a Twilight Zone or a Borges story, those of you who know the great Argentine poet, writer. And you can enjoy it just as when I read the story, I just couldn't believe each page, so many interesting things happening to this man, and I just enjoyed it. And I knew there was more to understand, and fortunately with a story you can go and read it again or look at the pages. But I wanted to make a film that you could see and totally understand the story, and then later ruminate about what some of the philosophy was. I didn't want to make a film that was inaccessible. I wanted to make a film that was beautifully photographed, that had incredible music, fantastic acting, and you could just enjoy it for that. But later, if you wanted to see it again, you could, and you would get more out of it, because you no longer had to worry about, my God, what is this crazy thing happening now? This happens, then that happens. And I like to make films that can be seen more than once, and I have been lucky that some of the films I made 30 years ago, people still see them. So I suggest to the distributor that you should, with every ticket, you should give them the option they can come and see it again for free, because they will get more out of it the second time and the third time and the fourth time, just as I do from certain literature and certainly from Mircea Eliade's work.